In the 5th or 6th century, there was an Irish monk named Saint Brendan the Navigator. He set sail from the coast of Ireland in a small boat made of leather and wood, driven by what this ancient text says was a wound in his heart. Remember that. A wound in his heart for the promised land of the saints. No doubt a metaphor for heaven. A place he had only heard about, a place radiant with the glory of God. The Navigatio Sancti Brendani tells us that Brendan was inflamed with an insatiable longing and a divine fire. A wound that compelled him to leave behind the familiar and cast out into the unknown. This story is not just a piece of medieval legend, it is a strand in the cord of Anglican spirituality. We come from a pilgrim people, our spirituality forged in the harsh, windswept Isle of Britain, steeped in the monastic imagination that knew how to long, how to fast, how to journey in leather boats. From these roots arise a holy dissatisfaction, which you can see in our prayer book, a dissatisfaction with where we are and who we are. Our spirituality is very much marked by Hebrews 11. They confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims in the earth. They sought a better country that is an heavenly. Saint Brendan's wound, that deep ache for a land not yet seen, is at the heart of today's homily. Pilgrimage and the wound of grace. What God has for us is not found where we are, our current state. It's not by staying where we are. God's destiny for us requires movement, journey, desire. Pilgrimage is the shape of the Christian life. And we need to talk about this. Lately, I've been reflecting in my times away, and I've come to realize that we have lost an imagination for being a penitent. A penitent is someone on a journey towards God. A penitent knows that he has not arrived yet. In many ways, we are anti-penitents and surrounded by a culture of anti-penitence. An anti-penitent pretends that they've already arrived at the end before they've even begun. They are assured in their complacency. They are secure in their carnality. Pilgrimage might be the perfect spiritual antidote to two forces that dominate our culture and rob us from true penitence. And those two things are American consumerism and evangelical immediacy. Consumerism constantly tells you to be dissatisfied with where you are, but it offers you solutions that require no journey, no transformation. It trains us to be anti-penitent. You do not have to fast, pray, walk, wait, or repent to get what you want. You just click, swipe, and smile. We are formed to be anti-penitents. But the bigger culprit is the shallow immediacy of evangelical theology. This might be new for some of you. It trains us to believe that we have already arrived. I'm already clean. I've been washed in the blood. I'm already illumined. I don't need to go to catechesis. I have the Spirit living in me. I'm already united. I have Jesus in my heart. Pilgrimage. What do I need a pilgrimage for? I'm already nestled up to Daddy God. You see, this erodes an imagination for being a penitent. Someone who senses a gap between who they are and who they long to be in God. A penitent is not crushed by this gap, but they acknowledge it. They set their face toward the long road home. How many times has someone said, I know for sure I'm saved. See, I've got it in my Bible. It's August 2nd. Oh, wait, that's crossed out. 2000, that one's crossed out too. No, last year. No messing around this time. For real. 2024. My point is not to mock. And I know that none of you think this way. But I'm warning us. Many of us have grown up in a culture that lacks an imagination for penitence, for our life in God as a journey marked by ups and downs, where we don't have to scratch out our past. We know that we are on a journey somewhere. The prodigal son was not saved finally, once and for all in the pigsty. He journeyed back long ways, back to the Father, with a prayer of penitence on his lips. Father, I have sinned. That is the voice of a pilgrim. That is the voice of Christian. Well, that is a long introduction. Our text for the day is Psalm 84. Psalm 84. And I printed out Psalm 84 in our bulletin on page 20. Please turn there. I want to walk through verse by verse. That's why I printed it out. We didn't say it in the liturgy because we didn't say morning prayer today. I've also put underneath the psalm text a section for notes in the off chance that I say something helpful for you. All right, background information, overview. Psalm 84 is a pilgrim psalm. A pilgrim psalm. There's a lot of pilgrim psalms. They're great. You should read them. This is a pilgrim psalm. It's a psalm of longing, of distance, and movement. It was likely written in a time when the temple, where access to the temple was restricted, perhaps just before or even during the exile, where it would have been very dangerous to make a pilgrimage to the temple. And so it comes to us as a cry of the heart that aches for the courts of the Lord. You ready to jump in? Good? You ready? Yeah, you guys are silent. I'll fix it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Let's fix this. Let's read verse 1 together. You guys there? Page 20. We're going to walk through verses 1 through 7. Reading just verse 1 together. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. The word amiable in Hebrew is yadid. It means beloved, dear, beautiful, lovely. It carries with it the ache of love. The Latin translation is delecta, which you're going to hear in the offertory this morning as a chant of the first two verses. It's the same word here, amiable, delecta, as is used in Song of Solomon. My beloved, my delecta is mine, and I am his. This is not an aesthetic admiration. The temple is just so beautiful. It's not that. It is a beauty that hurts. The psalmist longs not just for the building, but the God who dwells in it. And the temple was no short stroll away. For most Israelites, this would have been a 20 to 40 mile journey from home to Jerusalem and then back. That journey would have taken anywhere from 6 to 10 days. And devout Jews made this journey 3 times a year for Passover, Tabernacles, and Pentecost. Imagine the formation that would occur if this was a part of their rule of life. This was what God ordained to be a spiritual discipline for them, that 3.5, 4 weeks of the year, they walked that far. What is our spiritual discipline? I listen to the Dwell app. while sipping on my Mocha Choco Loca cup of cappuccino. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Dwell app, and I also love Mocha Choco Loca cup of cappuccinos. But do you even hear in the name Dwell a sort of immediate intimacy? There's nothing about pilgrimage in the name Dwell. You're already there. Ancient Jew, what is your rule of life? There's probably many things they would say, but one of them would be, I walk 180 miles barefoot for 3 weeks every year to offer a sacrifice at a temple, and it's uphill both ways. Do you think that God was trying to tell people that salvation is a journey? Do you think that our having no concept of pilgrimages doesn't teach us that? Verse 2. Let's read the first half together, just the first half until the colon. Ready? My soul longeth, yea, even fainteth for the courts of the Lord. This is not a dry obligation, a mere duty. It's desire. The word for fainteth is kela, sometimes translated as lovesick. The Latin, deficit. The soul feels a deficit, a lack, an incompleteness that aches until it has that which it's desiring. I'd like to introduce to you a theological concept that might be new to you. Grace is a wound. Grace is a wound. We often imagine grace as forgiveness or assurance or intimacy, and it is, but that often comes later in the journey. Oftentimes, God starts our journey of grace with a wound. Think about it. The risen Christ appeared to St. Paul and struck him blind. That wound initiated a pilgrimage to the church. This is the way wounds work. You're walking along the street, you fall, and a stick impales you. Where are you going to go? What pilgrimage are you on? You go to the hospital. When God wounds you, you go to the church. You go to his son. You start the long, lifelong journey to come to the courts of the living God. God wounded Jacob. Grace is a wound. If you are stabbed, a journey starts. And when we are stabbed by beauty, we know that we must seek its source in order to be healed. So it is with God's grace. This is why St. John of the Cross writes, "Where have you hidden, beloved, Delecta, and left me moaning? You fled like a stag after wounding me." Grace is what wounds you with desire so that you leave the city of destruction that we're in and start wandering after God. Saint Brendan set sail, it says, because he was wounded in his heart. We all have experienced this in one way or another. For me, I remember the first time that I saw Vandy. First day of college. I was cut to the heart, and it was not a mere flesh wound. It felt mortal. It sent me on a journey that I'm still on. This is the journey that the psalmist is on. He's lovesick. He has been wounded by God's grace. He thinks of the beautiful God in the far-off, beautiful temple, and he is longing. He fainteth to be there with God. Second half of verse 2, I'll read for you. My heart and my flesh crieth out for the living God. Many translations say rejoice. My heart and my flesh rejoiceth for the living God. That's not right. The King James is right on this. It is a crying out. It is a desperate plea, not a rejoicing plea. His whole being wants to be with God. Not the temple, not the music, not the ritual, but God, the living God. Verses 3 and 4 are very much tied together. Yea, the sparrow hath found a house, even thine altar. And then in verse 4, blessed are they that dwell in thy house. So now comes holy envy. All of this is a psychology of a pilgrim, by the way. Holy envy. The psalmist is jealous of the birds who nest near God's altar. He is jealous of the priests, the temple singers that live in Jerusalem, that live close to God and never have to leave. He says, they will still be praising thee. The idea here is, they always get to be with you. I'm jealous. This was the verse, by the way, interestingly, that led generations of Christians to think of monks and nuns and priests who dwell in God's house always. And this is why this psalm is appointed in almost every ancient liturgy for the burial of a monk, nun, or priest or monastic. A word on that. One sign that Protestantism has lost its imagination for being a penitent is how easily it mocks the monastic life. I've heard it on YouTube. I've heard it here. But monks, like pilgrims, know that they have not yet arrived. Their renunciation is a way of journeying. In fact, I believe that this is the main value of monastics in the church. They remind us that there is a longer journey of God, towards God, a pilgrimage of the soul. Their existence within the church destroys false notions like unfeeling stoicism or banal emotionalism, or even very common nowadays, unfettered militantism. Militancy? One of those. Protestantism has these claims that these are really the crux of the faith. But talk to any monastic, and you'll know that it's not true. They are the embodiment of the psalm, one thing have I desired. One, monastic. One thing have I desired, that I will require, even that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the fair beauty of the Lord and to visit his temple. So let me ask you, have you tricked yourself into thinking that you have arrived? What if there is a long journey between that font and that altar? What if the grace that those three boys received today was more like a wound? And what if it meant that their life was to be a limping home to God? A famous Anglican writer, E.B. Pusey, once said, I would that all would be penitents. Some of our children may marry and build homes. Arthur, Felix, and Wyatt, maybe they'll marry other girls in the church. That'd be fantastic. That'd be holy. Marriage is the normal state of human life. But perhaps these three little boys will found a monastery together on our parsonage field. Perhaps the baptismal wound that they received today will bind them not only to God, but to each other in holy friendship. Maybe they will have a wound that draws them irrevocably to prayer and purity of heart, that they have a desire that all of their days would be given to the pursuit of the pilgrimage towards God. But whether they are married or monastic, let all be penitents. Let all be pilgrims. Verse 5, drawing close. Blessed is the man whose strength is in thee, in whose heart are the ways of them. The better translation here is, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. This is a turning point in the psalm. We move from a psychology of pilgrimage to the journey itself. And this is a fascinating verse, in whose heart are the highways to Zion, because it shows us the purpose of the practice of pilgrimages. The roads to God must not only lie outside of us in pilgrimage, but their purpose is to form highways to God in our hearts. Have you ever sat in silence and tried to pray and felt like there's no path to God in your heart? I often feel when I pray in silence that I'm in the middle of a Texas wilderness with all these twiggy mesquite trees. There's no obvious way through them. They're too dense. No roads, no highways. Pilgrimage, whether inward or outward, clears the way. We are addicted to the immediacy of intimacy, but it's not true. Clarity of mind, nearness to God, deep prayer takes time. You have to walk the same paths over and over again before a road is made. You have to cut out the thorn bushes, the mesquite trees. You have to stomp on the grass. You must walk long roads before the inner roads are made. Blessed is he in whose heart are the highways to Zion. Verse 6, who passing through the valley of Baca make it a well. Baca was a dry valley filled with balsam trees, very dry. Sometimes it was called the Valley of Weeping. And there's a play in the psalm on this. It says that every pilgrim must pass through dryness in the pilgrimage to God. Seasons where God seems far. There's an interesting thing about this verse, though. The psalmist says, they make it a well. Check the text. They walk through the valley of Baca, the dry valley, and they make it a well. You'd expect God to make it the well, and he does eventually at the end of the verse, but they make it a well. How? With tears. It's the valley of weeping. Their weeping for God becomes their watering, and then God adds the rain after. And finally, they go from strength to strength. This is how pilgrimages work. The beginning is where your emotions and stamina are the weakest, but as you journey, your stamina grows. Your intimacy deepens. You don't arrive all at once, but you are strengthened on the way. Strength to strength, glory to glory, until you end in the presence of God with the beatific vision. So let me close with some practical thoughts about pilgrimage. First, see your whole life as a pilgrimage. Hear the words of our prayer book that Wyatt, Felix, and Arthur had today a real beginning. Real. They are regenerate. They are adopted by the Father. They are united to the Son. They are filled with the Holy Spirit. And yet it is a beginning. They received a wound that initiates a long, limping journey. Ask God today if he will make you lovesick again with a new wound. And when he does, don't demand immediate intimacy. Walk, weep, wait. Second, take a real pilgrimage. You should. If you have a vacation to the Caribbean, wherever people go nowadays, cancel it and just book a trip to Jerusalem. Maybe next year. Or go to England, or just walk to some place that you hope to meet God. Walk to church. Park far away one Sunday. Park at Bernard's. He's a friend. Walk to church. And ask God to meet you there. Pray Psalm 84 on the way. Third, let holy envy move you to prayer. Envy those who pray deeply, who fast with joy, who dwell near God. Maybe they're monks, maybe they're nuns. Maybe they're just elderly parishioners who keep the daily office. Bless them, imitate them, read them, join them. And finally, practice the disciplines of pilgrimage. Pray the daily office, fast on Fridays, feast on feast days. Cut sin out of your life. If you need it, go to confession, talk to a spiritual director, train your soul to walk. The world is teaching you to demand satisfaction now, but satisfaction comes not from pretending we've arrived, but from longing well. So come, beloved, walk the roads of Zion. Blessed is the man in whose heart are the highways to God. Amen.